Hello and welcome to the Bad Bookers Wrestling Podcast. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be looking through the NXT from last night. So obviously a little bit fairly removed from it. I actually watched it last night and watched it again today, just to make sure that I remembered everything that had gone on, and I'm still going to have to use notes just because that's just the way my mind works. So we started off with Dominik Dijakovic versus Shane Thorne. Now, I'm going to freely admit, don't really know who Shane Thorne is. I think I've seen him wrestle a couple of times, but yeah, don't really remember anything about him. And obviously, this match, he got a little bit of offense in, but it was mostly Dijakovic's squash match again. He's just... he looks like a phenomenal wrestler. I got to admit that 3 months ago I probably didn't know who he was. He was big on the indie scene, I think, before he went to NXT, and then he basically sat in NXT or in WWE developmental for a year without doing anything. But yeah, he's just looked absolutely incredible, all sorts of stuff, and obviously this match finished with a feast your eyes again after a few other big sort of moves. Dijakovic, really impressed me. He runs around. He's as quick and agile as a cruiserweight. He's big, strong man as well. He's got all the moves. I'm really impressed by him. I thought he looked good in this match. I think Thorne didn't look like a normal jobber, so that's probably good as well. They both came out of it looking good, I would say, in my personal opinion anyway. So yeah, I think that was a really good sort of opening to the match. And then obviously following that we had the Street Profits versus was it Humberto, Carrillo and Stacey, Ervin Jr. There we go. Carrillo I remember the name of, the other fellow I don't. This almost to me felt like an indie match in that there was a lot of like dancing around. When Carrillo and Montez Ford were in the ring, there was a lot of sort of like both of them flipping at the same time, both of them going for a drop kick against each other at the same time, and then kip ups back together. A few really good moves. Obviously, there was that. I think it was Montez Ford who did the German suplex that looked really bad. He dropped Carrillo right on his neck. I think it was Carrillo, but yeah, he dropped him right on his neck anyway, and everybody sort of had to stop, and the referee just went step out of the way and just dived straight in there to check that he was all right, and luckily it seems like he was. They continued the match anyway, and there was some really good spots in here, and obviously we finished with a blockbuster like electric chair drop thing from the Street Profits for them to win the match. I'm slowly being turned around by the Street Profits. If you'd asked me before Christmas, I probably would have been able to tell you who they were, but not really being impressed by them, and this really impressed me. They were impressive the other week as well. Montez Ford seems to be somebody who, if we take that one German suplex out, seems to be a fairly decent wrestler. He's that again, that cruiserweight style flippy, which is impressive to watch usually. I quite like it. He seems to be able to go in the ring as well. There's nothing from that match that said that he can't. I'm starting to slowly get turned around, and I wouldn't mind seeing them in a tag team match for the titles. But obviously, they're following the match. We then had the Street Profits did a promo. They were calling out the War Raiders. Then I believe they're calling Bartel and Aichner the European Union. Now, as a non-Brit, I'm Manx, but as somebody who will be affected by Brexit, and I think that's what they're going for here. I assume they're going to be mostly a NXT UK team, and they're going for Brexit heat. That would be like calling two Mexican wrestlers the underwall tunnelers, or calling two people from the south of America the Mexico haters. In that it's just touching a little bit too close to real world things. I don't like it, but that's just my personal opinions. Yeah, I don't like them being called the European Union, but they came out, they made a sort of, they did cut a promo and said, no, we should be involved in the next tag match against the War Raiders. Then we had Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, who are one of my favourite tag teams in NXT. If you'd have asked me a week ago, I wouldn't have been able to name half of these groups, but the more I think about it, actually the tag teams in NXT, they've got some real good people. I know they're going to be obviously in NXT UK as well, but you've got people like Mustache Mountain as well to add to this. War Raiders came out, and as they were walking down the ring, they said, oh yeah, if you want to challenge us, who's I've seen a lot of talking, but nobody's coming down to fight. And then as they walked down to the ring, they got hit by the Undisputed Era, and I wouldn't mind seeing a match between any of these, whether it's Undisputed Era back fighting the War Raiders, whether it's Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, whether it's Aichner and Bartel, whether it's Street Profits, whoever gets the next tag opportunity. I think it'll be a good match again. I wouldn't mind seeing either a tournament or a fatal four-way, maybe between or maybe a triple threat, whatever you want to have, between the teams that are going to fight for a number one contendership. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. Whereas I wasn't a massive fan. There's certainly the Street Profits have turned me around in the last couple of weeks. I think there's a chance that there's going to be a good match for the NXT tag titles before the takeover at Mania. So we'll wait and see, but I think that's going to be good. And like I say, the promo was just really good. We then, what did we have? We had Taynara Conti, who I've got to admit I've never heard of. I believe she was in one of the Mae Youngs, was she? And she was in one of the Royal Rumbles. I think she was in the first Royal Rumble. Was she one of the NXT women that was in that? I think they said over the commentary, but she's, like I say, not somebody I know of. And Aliyah, who's somebody who exists. I'm not a big fan at all. Seen her wrestle a few times now on NXT, and she's just meh. She doesn't inspire you. She doesn't drag you in. She's not good enough at being a heel to make you hate her. She's not good enough at being a face to make you enjoy her. She's very is probably the best way to, like, I don't care if I see her name. She's not going to make me watch a pay-per-view. She's not going to make me go and watch. Like, if she was on NXT UK trying to be the NXT name to draw you into that, I wouldn't go and watch it. Like, she's just, yeah, but it was an alright match. What really annoyed me was the finish of this match. I don't really remember much of the actual match itself, but it finished with like a half submission, but she was doing the strikes, and I thought when Matt Riddle did that, it was a really good way to end the match. We'd never seen somebody tapping out from strikes before, or at least if we have, it's been years and years, and it's not something it's something that's fresh and new. And for Matt Riddle, it makes sense because he's a UFC fighter. He's somebody that you can believe if they were elbowing you in the side of the head is going to make you tap out, because it happens in UFC all the time. It's not something we see in wrestling, but it happens in UFC all the time. People giving up from repeated strikes. To have Aliyah do that in the finish of this match with she wasn't even kicking it. It was her calf muscle, so there was padding there. It was definitely the wrong thing. I think WWE realised they've got a new finish for certain matches, and they've blown their load already. They could have used that with Matt Riddle, the only one able to do it, and then bedding in, and somebody else eventually gets there, and somebody who's credible. That could have been the most unique finish that we have in wrestling, and they've blown it on an Aliyah finish, which to me, I don't care anymore already. Like, it's not gonna, like, it made me pop when Cassius Ohno was made to tap by Riddle. I was physically like, that's an incredible finish to a match. and this wasn't an incredible finish to a match, so I don't care anymore. That finish is now just generic finish number 3. Instead of it being pinfall or submission, it's tap from strike, submission from strike instead of submission from submission move. And I think that was a really poor decision. Obviously, there was somebody came down to interfere in the match. Vanessa Bourne, again, not somebody I know too much about. I assume she's mates with Aliyah. Whatever. Really not fussed. We then had Shayna Baszler and Jessamine Duke and Marina Shafir came down, and they had a bit of a thing, and Baszler was just getting angry, which makes Baszler look hot. Duke and Shafir were there. It's probably the best I can say for them. Again, their wrestling has really been disappointing. I think they'd be all right at running spots for Baszler, or if they do a 4 horsewoman versus 4 horsewomen match, the only thing these guys could do is do the heel things, the running interference plays and dragging people off the rope, off the apron, and they could do those kind of things, but I wouldn't trust them to do anything more. Yeah, that was that. And then finally we ended the night with Ricochet versus Adam Cole. Now, I said on the podcast that their match last year, at whichever takeover it was my favourite match of the year. These two are both incredible wrestlers. Both of them have got talent. They wrestle different styles, but they wrestle incredibly well together. I think it was another action-packed match. It was back and forth. There was all sorts of things like targeting knees and I really enjoyed this match. Rather than like trying to break it down like I keep doing on the other reviews, I'm trying to keep this a bit shorter, and I'm just going to say go and watch this match because it was an absolutely fantastic match. I think Ricochet winning it was the right outcome, but it was a really, really, really good match, and it was, I can't even, was it a counted kick that won the match? Was it a super kick or something? I can't even remember how the match finished. I just remember it was an incredible match, but as soon as the match was over, the 3 other members of the Undisputed Era came down to attack Ricochet, which was again the perfect result. Where if you have Cole lose and they're on Cole's side, that's what's going to happen. That's like, it's believable, and that's the thing about NXT. Everything is believable, and as soon as the 3 count hit, they were straight down the ramp, all 3 of them, and then Aleister Black came out and tried to sort of help Ricochet, but obviously 4 on 2 is still better than it's still a 2-man advantage, and Undisputed Era came out looking on top, which is how it should be. That gives them all the heat. They've lost the match, but they've not lost any momentum because they've got the heat, because they finished the night on top. It was perfect. It's the best. It was a really, really good way to end the show, and at some point somebody needs to make a decision. They're either going to call Undisputed Era up to the main roster, or you're going to give all of the gold across the entire of NXT to the Undisputed Era. Those are the only 2 outcomes I can see by the end of this year. Either we end 2019 with Adam Cole as NXT champion, Roderick Strong as North American champion, and O'Reilly and Fish as the tag team champions, or any combination. As long as Adam Cole is the NXT, and maybe because obviously Strong and O'Reilly have been tagging together more recently than Fish and Strong, or Fish and O'Reilly. So whatever the combination is, they all need to end up with gold at some point this year, because they've got money on their hands, and they've got a fantastic team and a fantastic stable, and it's just they need to let it push on. They've been hot, they've been good, they've been great for the last since they've been in existence, really, let's face it, and they just need to keep it going. At the moment they're doing it well, but my fear is if they stay away from titles too long, or if they leave the heels chasing, it never looks as good. Heels shouldn't really be chasing. You want eventually them to steal a victory, and then for other people to be chasing them, whether it's Ricochet, whether it's Gargano, whether it's Velveteen Dream, whether it's Aleister Black, whoever it is. I think these guys need to be holding titles, and I think we need somebody chasing them. I don't think the tag titles will come next. I think leave the War Raiders to have a decent run, and I think the War Raiders are a team that would work well on the main roster under Vince McMahon. So I can see them holding on to the belts till SummerSlam and then going up, or till Money in the Bank and going up. I can see, and at that point, I think Undisputed Era get the tag titles back, and I think either Cole or either the NXT title or the North American title should already be with them at that point. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that was my review of last night. I think it was one of the better NXT normal shows I've seen. The only disappointment was that women's match, and it wasn't because it was women in it. I think it was just the way they finished it took away from the match. I think the match itself was all right. I didn't feel annoyed by it. I didn't write my own notes that much. I wrote a few little bits and bobs down, but I'm using a running order from online and just to sort of prompt memories and stuff. But yeah, I was disappointed by the finish of that match more than anything else. I think the rest of NXT was brilliant. I wouldn't have any problems with it at all. So yeah, that's my review of NXT from the 13th of February, and I'll see you all again soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to listen to the podcast, find us on SoundCloud. Obviously Twitter is @BadBookersWP, and all of the links and stuff are in there. And thank you very much for watching.